Good morning, ladies and gents, hope you're all well, and you're going to be joining me at one of our favourite Greenwich places. Just here, which I booked a little while ago, we're going to be having a tour up into the dome there today. That's the Chapel of St Peter and St Paul, which is part of the old Greenwich Naval Hospital. The Greenwich Observatory up on its hill there, the Queen's House there, and the Painted Hall there. So, join me over the river, and I hope you're all going to enjoy this one. Hello ladies and gents, and there we have it, the Chapel of St Peter and St Paul's. Built as Sir Christopher Wren's original design, part of the Greenwich Naval Hospital, a chapel deliberately intended for the pensioners. Bearing in mind that each pensioner had to attend chapel at least once every day or be fined for not doing so. So when we hear about John Worley towards the end part of our tour, he's one of the ones that didn't and got in trouble for doing so. My eyes are streaming, I think I need those tinted lenses again. Yeah, this is the Chapel of St Peter and St Paul. Try and get out of this sunlight. That's better. I think I shall have to get transitions lenses again. But yeah, this is a guided tour, hidden domes tours, £48. Already been and done it, so exterior scenes being filmed last, but it was worth every penny. Really enjoyed it. This is Queen Mary's Undercroft. And here it is. Old Father Thames above the door by the looks of it. We'll be going right up. You can't get out onto the lantern, which are those bits there. They'd never let the public in that. Health and safety would have a fit. So, join me inside the church as we begin our little tour. Hope you're all going to enjoy it. And that's where we'll be going officially this time, so should be good.
Then you can see 1794, the beautiful kind of script handwriting. And then here on the right we've got Peckham Glazes and White, which is from 1852. entering this first door, this is the doorway to the galleries that overlook the chapel. One is looking
Wow.
down.
People who've etched their names into the glass. That's very interesting.
What are we going through this door? This is the door to the organ.
Door to the galleries there. How's that for a view? Very impressive, isn't it?
We must be going through this.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Everyone here, yes. So here we are, our first stop. So we're looking south, overlooking the courtyard of Queen Mary's Court. So each of the 4 blocks on the site are named after a different monarch that was involved or on the throne during the creation of the site. So we have Queen Mary, who was the founder of the hospital. The mirror image is King William, her husband, King William III. And then to the north we have Queen Anne and King Charles. So this was the last block of the 4 to be built. So it took about 50 years to complete the Greenwich Hospital, partly because of the money problems. I guess like any kind of state project, budget spiral, interest wanes, and projects take much longer than they were expected. So 50 years. People are living here during that time. People first moved in I think 1704, but it's not until 1751 this is finally completed. Christopher Wren is long dead. Nicholas Hawksmoor, his apprentice, is no longer on the scene, and so it's left to a man named John Ripley to finish the job. He'd become the surveyor of the works, and he's sort of risen from the fairly humble beginnings as a carpenter. So unlike, say, Wren, who's this kind of polymath genius scientist, Ripley was a much more kind of utilitarian architect. But he was a man to get things done. He was a great project manager, and so basically sort of the instructions to him were just to finish the job, please. And to my eyes, this is a very beautiful, grand, elegant courtyard. As we'll see later on, Nicholas Hawksmoor's courtyard in King William block is much more grand, much more opulent, much kind of wilder. So this is kind of him being kind of practical. He had to squeeze in a lot more kind of dormitories than were first expected, first anticipated in Wren's design, as the kind of the need for the hospital grew. So this is Thomas Ripley. He also designed and added the tunnel. I don't know if you've been through that yet, but he added that to the site. So that's what's called Ripley Tunnel. We see these 2 lanterns, these 2 sort of bell towers there. So these, I don't think I've ever heard them ring, but they do work. They run electrically now, but they would have been run by hand originally, and these would have been to sound dinner time for the pensioners. There is a bell, again not working, on the top of the dome that was there to ring for the service. But if you think you've got thousands of men, you're trying to sort of choreograph them having a dinner, waking up, it's a big job, and so a big bell helps with the work. So that's the bell lanterns.
And are there bells on that one as well?
There are lanterns, it's sort of, but there aren't any bells in it. So yeah, it looks similar from the outside. And then the thing we're looking through, this is important as well, because we've got these kind of transparent rectangles of glass, very characteristic of Christopher Wren and his studio. His kind of office would produce, like a lot of his churches have a similar design. I think perhaps as a scientist, he was involved in microscopes and telescopes. I think he saw the beauty of light, and he thought that was enough to paint the interior or something. There was nothing more beautiful than light, he once proclaimed. But the Victorians decided that they wanted to add stained glass windows, to the chapel and to the painted hall and to these windows. So that's their taste. But perhaps Christopher Wren would have been slightly pleased that these the stained glass windows got blown in during World War II when the bombs were dropping in Greenwich, and the kind of blasts destroyed these. So when they did restore them, they went back to the original design, which is maybe more authentic for us now. Let's head up to the next floor. There's this little elephant face there. No idea when that was added. Here's lamb chop Christmas. Gather around and just give you a recap of where we are. So we started down here, on the ground floor, now we're up here in the pediment. The pediment. So this is this triangular sort of shape here, and the pediment. These are just names that we've given just to help us kind of remember where we are. So lovely kind of circular room. Yeah, some of you kind of drawn to these metallic objects. Anyone know what they are?
The organ.
Certainly pipes for the organ. So when you're downstairs, you see these kind of ornamental gold pipes. The organ dates back to 1789. Built or designed at the cost of £1,000 with a £500 Spanish mahogany case. But the gold pipes are just ornamental. The ones doing the business, there's 2,000 tin and lead alloy pipes on the back, and these are ones that have been removed and replaced over the years. Luckily, no one threw them away or no one sort of scrapped them, and they're still here. You can see there's sort of a few footprints on some of them where I think someone must have trodden on them when they were in storage somewhere. The organ's currently out of action, so we've got a contemporary electronic organ, and we're sort of costing how to repair the organ. So one day it will blow through. We've got the organ pipes here, and then we've got this wooden cuboid. Anyone know what this might be? Guess what this might be.
Housing for the pendulum.
Housing for the pendulum. Yes.
I love clocks. So,
it's our first introduction to the main character of our story is the clock that sits atop the dome. So yeah, this is where kind of the weight, like just imagining a grandfather, grandmother clock. It's the same principle. I'm not allowed to open this door, but yeah, there's a kind of a chain or a wire with a weight that keeps it going.
When we were on the floor below, where did it end up? Or does it stop here? Does it not go down?
Yeah, I think it stops here. Yeah, it doesn't go down into the. You can start to see a few bits of graffiti. Some of it's you always keep your eyes out. Most unlikely places. Some of it's people just leaving their mark, maybe having a conversation with someone else from predecessor, earlier carpenters from 100 years ago. Sometimes they're more functional, like they're also doing their working out on the wood. And then we won't be going in here, but looking here, this is the space above the ceiling in the chapel. So it's between the roof and the ceiling. And maybe space was at a premium, but when the chapel was first completed in the 1750s, there used to be a tailor's workshop at the back, I think at the far end of this space, or this kind of the roof, The people that would be mending and maybe making the uniforms for the pensions, they would have these long blue frock coats. So they were in here working late at night with the candles, and the story is that they were paid, at least partly paid, in gins. They were actually, that was like a, it sounds good at the job interview, but maybe that's some cold hard cash. That was the tailor's workshop. So not a
Taylor's workshop.
spare foot was spared. Okay, let's head upwards. Yeah, easily.
Are they architectural or?
I think they're kind of functional.
Oh.
If you go and look up, you'll see the hearth. I think there's a drainage
I'll
pipe
take your word for that.
that would go.
Yeah, we're not going to stick guides in
And I think these maybe some ventilation.
it. Okay.
That's
That
very
makes sense.
clever.
Shouldn't have question mark over it, but that's.
Are they all just that?
Yeah, they're all the same. And you'll see them on there next to them. Okay, set up. Spiral staircase, so you might want to take your time, maybe you want to hold on to the pillar in the middle.
Okay, that goes to the roof. Thank you.
Oh wow. Oh my goodness, look at that.
Stairs keep going.
Massive, yeah.
Oh.
Good heavens, look at that.
Oh.
On the colonnade, if you look across the way at King William, you can see these grand pillars sort of circling this level. Excuse it, it's its name. All this stuff, the pendulum, the pulpit, and the peacoat. So can you hear anything? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the pendulum. So 2 seconds swing. If you like. Again, I'm not allowed to go inside, but if you go to that ladder and open the door, you will see the hefty pendulum inside, swinging back and forth. When they were designing the clock, they thought it would, because of the size of the building and the length, I think it's 6 metre, I think, the length of the rod holding the bolt. Someone can maybe sort of exaggerating a little, but they said it would require a rock as big as the hospital itself to sturdy it and to stop it from breaking apart. But we didn't quite have a rock that big, but yeah, so far it's managed to keep ticking over the centuries. And if you were to climb up the ladder and peek in the back of that cabinet, you would see perhaps the most esteemed graffiti. Those science nerds out there. James, who is it? James Locke. No, sorry, James Locke. On the clock, he wasn't actually directly involved in the clock, but he advised on it, so we think that could be him.
James what?
Yes, so we've got James Watts.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And then maybe less famous, but no less interesting graffiti here. I mean, this is my favourite. I mean, I like the idea that children's just kind of drawn something to show their mates, or maybe just to work out how to wire something up. It's been one of my favourite things. So there's the pendulum, and here's the pulpit. You all saw the pulpit downstairs, in much kind of finer kind of condition than this one. But originally, there was the one you saw was the tallest of three. So imagine that it's called a triple decker. So imagine the one you saw downstairs, the middle kind of pulpit, the reading desk, and then sort of a lectern kind of lower down. Then they would be used depending on the types of readings you were giving and the importance of who was speaking. And this was just the fashion at the time, and even some churches have that to this day. So originally, the pulpit you saw downstairs was right in the centre, with a painting, with the painting behind, kind of framing it, adding a kind of theatrical backdrop, and then the other two would be like right in front. And then they were moved, so they were split at some point. So you had the pulpit there and the reading desk and a lectern there. But then in 1952, this was all transported up here once the chapel was restored and then reopened and rededicated by Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Now this is what remains of the jigsaw piece. So you can see it's all made by John Arrow. It's about £300 fine kind of carpentry. Each of the panels originally had one of the four Old Testament prophets, but you can see three of them have been taken away when they're sitting in someone's home somewhere. I'm not sure who this one is. There was Daniel, Malachi, Micah, and Zechariah. But this isn't made of wood. So anyone know or can guess what this carving, this figure is made from? What? Plaster. Very close. Paper mache. It's a bit getting colder.
Terracotta?
Terracotta, no. It's a type of clay. It's called Codestone. Coade, named after Eleanor Code.
Like the lions?
Yes, like the Lion on Westminster Bridge by City Hall.
Alright.
Yeah, and downstairs in the chapel, in the vestibule, there's the four virtues. They're all made of Codestone. It's this kind of a clay that's fired twice. It's clay, ground up glass, and you can dye it. You fire at a very high temperature, and it becomes this very weather-resistant alternative to carving from granite or marble. Which meant when it was perfected, this material, there were other kind of recipes, but when it was perfected, it meant people could have kind of quite delicious sculptures at a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time. And here they appear in the pulpit downstairs. It looks like wood. It looks like there was wood carvings on the pulpit. It's actually made of Codestone. It's dyed. This is one such material here. So you can have to see someone try to stick these all together one day.
They just chucked it in the attic?
Yeah, they just it was probably needed repairing, but well, we don't really need it. Let's put it upstairs. How do you think they squeezed up the spiral staircase?
Yes.
How did they get it up here?
Not up the spiral
No,
staircase.
not up this, yes.
Through the windows?
Close. Well, not a bad idea, but maybe it's an easier way.
You're standing on two trapdoors.
You only got to do it once. Just cut the floor out, winch it up, and then just put down some new floorboards. Simple. I say that. I didn't have to do it. And then finally, this coat here. A more recent 20th century edition. So during, we think it may be dating back from World War II, when the bombs was dropping in London. In 1943, 2 bombs kind of fell on the King Charles building, the kind of north west building, below the river, killed 1 person, destroyed a corner. And then they started putting kind of officers training up here, trainees were up here, got fire alarms. They would look out across London, you know where bombs were dropping, and then they could radio down if they saw a fire breaking out to alert the fire brigade. It's maybe one of the credits from one of the people, and certainly some of the graffiti you'll see later dates back from that period, some men idling away their hours. There's one sort of curious story from one of the people on watch. It was Sub-Lieutenant ATF Griffin, July 1944. He was up here apparently, looking out, idling away. But then a bomb dropped Greenwich Police Station, took out the police station, shook the building, the lights went out, and he radios off. He went downstairs, fumbled his way through the dark to kind of send word that the bombs had fallen on Greenwich. Stumbling around down where we met in the vestibule, he fears for the safety of his colleagues. He reaches out and feels the cold face of someone lying supine on the floor. Oh my God, someone's suffered, someone's perished, he thought. Struck a match to see who it was, but oh no, it was actually a memorial to a previous admiral that was placed in the vestibule. That's his story. He later on became an admiral, so I can imagine it's been embellished as he sort of after dinner speeches and speeches in the mess. But this is the story that he told. It's a nice story. Okay, any questions? Then upwards we must go. Didn't see that. If you look up there at these stairs, you'll see this is where we'll be going. Wind your head to the top.
We go on those? Yep.
Excellent.
And the next one.
Well, you were kidding. I'm all right, but
Thank you. Oh, wow.
What's the name of this one?
Excellent question. This is the one we call the drum. This is definitely one we made up. I guess it's sort of like a snare drum. It's like a sort of snare drum.
Okay.
Imagine it. So we're up here. The next story is the Domatic. Unfortunately, we won't be going into the lantern. But yeah, you can duck underneath and look around the other side. You can just wind your head. Around, and you go around your neck.
Now that is impressive. Get a really good shot from the roof from that, just from there, yeah.
I'll just scoot past.
oh,
It doesn't look like a trapdoor. If you look out here to the west, you can see the the Nicholas Hawksmoor courtyard I was mentioning, or alluded to.
Very different to this one.
Yeah, see how it's very different to the one we first saw. It's got brick as well as Portland stone. It's got a greater variety of windows with sort of circles and squares, archways. And you've got these very large pilasters, these kind of flat sort of pillar-like things that are built into the wall, and then much smaller pillars that are up at height. So it's kind of really, Hawksmoor's really sort of being quite daring as an architecture goes in those days. One of the reasons are given for this being brick as opposed to Portland stone, because when you look by the river, you see the old Royal Naval College, everything's very symmetrical, everything's kind of uniform. Nicholas and Wren wanted that. He thought when you saw something in its entirety, you should aim for simplicity, but then you can have complexity when things are hidden away. So, but there's a practical reason that basically Portland stone was at a shortage at that time. It was being used primarily for St Paul's Cathedral, which was being built at the same time. There's also industrial disputes with the quarrymen in Portland, and they end up at certain points they destroying all their equipment because they were not happy with the conditions that they were being given as sort of the deal. But so, for practical reasons as well as maybe artistic, we have brickwork in here. Bricks were supplied by a man called Daniel Foe, who then went on to write a book you may have heard of called Robinson. Daniel Defoe. He changed his name to
that's interesting.
Robinson Crusoe. So he's quite a brickmaker to author.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now that I didn't know. The maker of those bricks, Daniel Defoe.
Stuck under here.
Are you the clock man? You can peer through and you can see
excellent.
stuff.
I'll give you a better view in a minute.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
Don't you worry.
you can.
Easy for a little bit longer. You come over this side again. Remember, the chapel was the last part of Greenwich Hospital to be completed in 1751. It ticks along nicely, excuse the pun, till 1779 when a fire broke out. 1st of January, midnight, the alarm was sounded, a fire had broken out in a tailor's workshop. Maybe it was the candles, maybe it was the gin, who knows. But the fire broke out, the water tanks were empty. The fire brigade had to be kind of summoned from central London, or from London, this was Kent then, and so it was going to take hours before they would arrive. The pensioners lined up to the river, passing buckets of water to put the fire out. The fire brigade arrived in the morning, but the fire wasn't out until the afternoon. And here's a contemporary etching of it.
Wow.
So ravaged the dome, the interior, the roof.
And that's where we're standing now.
Yes. So all the way up to here, this is the original. The stone survived. The interior, everything else, the roof, this is all a replacement. This is how it looked in the aftermath of the fire. This is the sort of colonnade looking down towards the river. So we're right up here.
Went in on
Yeah.
itself.
We're here. In just 10 years, so from 1779 to 1789, they restored this. So this is all new, new clock. I'm not sure if there was a clock actually in the original design. They got round to introducing one, and a new dome. Look at some of the carpentry here.
Old nails.
The carpenter's marks. If you look up here, watch, you can see a line and there's kind of a partial circle there, and then a line and a partial circle there. So these are just so you can, a bit like a sort of flat pack furniture where you assemble A to A, B to B. So you build it, I guess, down on ground level, make sure everything fits together, and then when you've hoisted it up, you know exactly how to put things together. It's made with a race knife. It's sort of like a curved, almost like an ice cream scoop, a special carpenter's tool. You just make one of these marks. You'll see a few more of them around in the building. And then also down here, where we came up, you can see a scarf joint. So you've got like something called Jupiter's bolt. It looks a bit like a lightning bolt here. This is just a way of connecting pieces of wood. So you've got these like dotted around the perimeter of the dome, but normally they're sort of tucked away. It's a technique that goes all the way back to ancient Rome, but here's it's being re-employed here. So it's got a time-tested way of securing shorter bits of wood. Yeah.
What did you call it again? Jupiter?
Sometimes it was Jupiter's bolt. It's called a scarf joint. Is a proper sort of carpenter's term. And then another piece. This is one of my favourite pieces of graffiti. Down here, we talked about the fire watchmen. So we've got like a jug of beer, flaming frothing. It says, "Disciples of Bacchus." Midshipman Mervico Payne and Midshipman Alico Mitchell. So these are sort of fake Latin names that they give themselves. 1944, flying bombs, we eat 'em. It says, so you can imagine these kind of guys, friends, up here, leaving their mark. Per vin ad urinalum. Anyone read the Latin?
No.
No.
So
Something to do with wine?
from wine to urine. Per vino ad urinalum. So they were just in there, kind of young men, and I think it was Payne that went on just a year later, died in combat, became a pilot in the Navy in East Asia, died in combat. And so here we remember them, and here there's other kind of people through the years, 1942, 1988, and even this is quite, it says something about the time, Notts County Promotion Push Tour, 89-90. So these are like little kind of like marks of what's important to people working here. But yes, have a look. There we go. So, that's what we're all waiting for. Come in and meet the clock.
Thank you.
John Smith and Sons. I like that they leave the service record right there.
Yeah, so
it's history, isn't it? Yeah, it's important.
So every Monday, it's normally Brian that comes up and winds the clock. If you look on our social media, there's a video of him, I think last week. You can watch him doing it. It's very noisy, but yeah. So it's officially it only needs winding every 8 days. The designers initially proposed a 30-day clock, so it needs kind of winding every 30 days. But perhaps the governors of the hospital thought they'd sort of go for the cheaper option, and just thought, well, we can just pay a pensioner to go up once a week to wind it. So so there's a kind of a ratchet handle there. Just gets popped on there, door opened, wound up, and you can see the cable that holds the weight that we would have hung into the first bit of the shaft that we first saw. You can see it there ticking away. You can see the pendulum swinging. There's a collaboration between Smeaton and Ludlam. So Smeaton was a civil engineer, and Ludlam was an astronomer and reverend. So they kind of collaborated.
All right. That's fascinating.
So that little peek through the wood wasn't all we got to see.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah, this was the crowning reward. That was just the tempter, wasn't it? Yes.
And this is the north-facing clock.
Like the drive shaft. For the
Oh.
clock, yeah.
Oh, you'll
That's
have
what
to come back
drives.
and have another
That's
look.
what drives the hand.
Is it
Yeah, I'll
is
come
the
out.
same company that built the clock still?
I don't think they are still going. So
That's
there's like
unfortunate.
just a handful of clock experts left in Europe. And so when it loses about 1 or 2 seconds a week,
Oh, that's...
or 1-2 minutes a week. But so there's like a radio conversation between, say, Brian, who's winding it, and then someone on the outside to look at the clock outside, so they sort of to make sure that they sort of the time is adjusted. Obviously, when the clocks went forward, they had to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And then that drives as a kind of drive shaft through here. The quite so exciting, but it's the south side, the south clock. So there's a clock on each side of the building.
There's the drive shaft box.
On the other dome, there's a clock face that shows the wind direction. So you've got weather wind vanes we'll talk about shortly on the roof of each dome, and the one on the other side is kind of attached to like a clock face that tells you which way the wind is blowing. Both important things for sailors on the River Thames. So transporting cargo up, it's useful to know the sign, but also need to know like which way the wind's blowing. Is it safe to go up, upstream, and how to navigate. So these kind of functional sort of ornamental instruments. Okay, should we go up to the dome? Meters from ground level now, 9 meters across the dome. There's 16 of these oculi, these oval windows facing out. Imagine how the views changed.
Yeah, that's true. Look at the tank man.
South, you can see the Queen's House around the radium white building there, and behind it you see Greenwich Park is adding restoring the original grass and steps that King Charles II had restored. The Queen's House is one of the reasons, well, is the reason why we have a twin dome hospital. Maybe you know the story. Christopher Wren's original design was to have a single chapel with a single dome, almost to rival St. Paul's, in the centre of the hospital. Queen Mary II, who was the founder of the hospital, didn't want the view of the river or the access to the river from the Queen's House blocked.
She liked the view.
So she liked the view. She insisted this kind of 31 metre, I think, gap between. Exactly the same width as the Queen's House.
This graffiti, look. M. Williams, 29th of July, 1945. Oh, that's interesting. Take a picture of that.
And if you look west to the other dome, okay, let's sort of get a picture of where we are now.
What was the name of
The dome. Domatic. So it's kind of oak interior, and it's kind of covered with lead. And sitting on each of them, we've got a lantern. I remember I said that we saw the smaller lanterns that rang for dinner. So the one above us has a bell in that would have rung for the chapel. The other one on King William is empty. The ringer upstairs is not working. This is the bell hammer is down here, so you can see on the floor Rachel. Before that, though, there was a bell inside this building, hung, supported by this kind of wood, this oak frame. But at some point, it was moved on the outside. And that's That's the bell hammer that you're looking at. So that would have struck the bell above us to sound chapel. And then you see the weather vane. You can't, it's pointing sort of away from us or towards us, so you can't really see it fully. It's like it's gilded, like a banner, like a sort of heraldic banner. There's an identical one on each side. Originally, though, there was a sea lion on that one. Not like a sea lion, but more like a lion with a fish's tail, like a merman, because that's I think one of the heraldic symbols of the Royal Hospital. The trouble is, it was too big, too heavy to actually point in the right direction, so it wouldn't swing in the wind. So they took it down. Nicholas Hawksmoor gave it to Ripley, who we met earlier. What Ripley did with it, we don't know. So maybe he melted it down, maybe it's in someone's attic. Yes, wonderful views here. You can still just see St Paul's Cathedral peeping up between some of the buildings. You can imagine when this was completed, St Paul's was head and shoulders above anything else on the London skyline.
Yeah.
It would have been the only other thing, and if you looked across the river, you would have seen St Anne's Church in Limehouse. It's still there, and that was positioned so it would be dead on centre with the Queen's house. So the line of symmetry from the observatory, from the top of the park, through the Queen's house, through the Old Naval College, would have continued all the way to Limehouse. But now, and that's the reason why. I think one of the reasons why Canary Wharf is slightly off centre, because originally they were trying to sort of preserve that view. It's a World Heritage Site, but now I guess capital fun.
Well, that's reminiscent of, I know there's been discussion, the tower is a World Heritage Site, and there's been conversation about, with the encroachment of the modern buildings, what does that, what do you do, in these sorts of situations, where you...
Old and new juxtaposition.
Right,
yeah.
you have to make allowances or not. So, oh my.
Yeah, because Liverpool lost its World Heritage status recently.
Did it?
I didn't
know that. No, I didn't know that either. Oh.
Yeah, I think because of modern developments. Or
Christ.
Docklands.
Oh my goodness.
Some more interesting graffiti around here. Bits you can sort of see. So I think a lot of them have been done in lead pencil, so they've quite of looking to find. There's one here that says, "Oh, what a wren was Mary Morton, March the 8th, 1941." Someone told me that Mary Morton was one of the founders of the Wren, so maybe this is an ode to her.
Yeah, a little tribute to her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And actually, if you look down here, you can see it's a charred wood. They didn't quite learn the lesson. Well, maybe they did learn the lesson. It wasn't any worse than this. This is, I'm not sure when this dates back from, but the idea is that the cleaning fluid used for the clock is flammable. Maybe someone smoking at work and they started to fire, but luckily it didn't get any further than this.
Yeah.
Sort of structurally sound. Unless anyone's got any more questions, we can start to get down. Anyone have any questions?
And so the ladder goes
This ladder here.
there.
Oh yeah, so this would go all the way, as you can see, it goes all the way. You went up there, there's a little hatch, and that would take you out into the lantern where the bell is. If you needed to inspect it.
Not high, but
How often does someone go up there?
I don't know when the last person
Does it need an inspection right now? Nice job.
Thank you for your time. I've been asking.
How much damage in general during the war in Greenwich?
I think it was quite relatively unscathed, kind of, compared to sort of East End.
Because, the bombers were mostly waiting to get closer to the docks and to London, yes.
Yeah, but I mean the docks were
the docks
right across the
here.
way, so it was fair. Some people sort of said that they would use the kind of Old Royal Naval College to navigate, to use this to fly through.
Yeah, I think when the observatory domes got blown off.
I did it.
Yeah, I've been done like the one of the evenings at the Royal Observatory,
Okay.
and the dome where they've got the working telescope bit, I think the one you can see sort of in front of you, that's that was replaced after the war apparently.
Oh,
It got,
right.
blown off during the war.
Okay. Yeah, seeing as it was a naval military college, could have been a target. Like a ship, you might find it easier to go backwards down these steep steps.
Okay, we're going down it.
One last house.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm trying to work out whether I'm going forwards or backwards. Is everyone doing backwards?
It's not real then, right?
Too many steps, so.
Someone just writes that for fun.
Yeah.
Someone just.
But absolutely worth it.
When it's clean, you can imagine it's.
Oh, no, I
Yes.
can't, after.
Hundreds of years.
Join us back downstairs. Hope you ladies and gents all enjoyed that. Some amazing views and some great history in there, eh? And for those of you that do watch EastEnders, you'll well know this intro. And for those of you that probably don't, you'll know this intro as well. Where we were up high and we were looking at those great views down the river and looking at the curve of the river, I've marked it with a blue arrow on this intro / map of EastEnders, so that's where we were. And the beautiful chapel, such a elegant, well, impressive and elegant building. It really is lovely. I did cover this a little while ago. It's a full extensive coverage of that. If you missed it and you would like to watch that, just click on the link in the description box. But of course we couldn't not give a mention to the pulpit after seeing the remnants of the old 3-decker pulpits that were taken down and leaving only this one. We saw the remnants of it up there, didn't we? So wanted to give that a little show. Cobestone these are made from. Absolutely beautiful. The detail is very, very good. And of course the organ, with all the organ pipes that we saw up there, it's not currently working at the moment, and as our guide said, who gave a very, very good tour, I must admit, was really pleased with that. As he said, these are just the show pipes, these ones, they don't do anything. The guts of it are all behind, and some of it is up in the dome. So, hope you've all enjoyed that, and now join me outside for one I filmed earlier. This bit, what you're going to be seeing, is exterior views and looking at those amazing courtyards, the Queen Mary and King William Courtyards. Very different in style, one by Wren, one by Hawksmoor, and the Hawksmoor one very interesting because the bricks were made by Daniel Foe. Note the name Daniel Foe, as we remember, Daniel Defoe as he would later become, and once a brickmaker would become an author. So that's an interesting little curio. So join me outside for that, and then for something a little bit special. Hope you all enjoyed that and those photos. An amazing place. So as I say, let me know in the comments section if that's something you'd like to see a tour of, and that is what we will do. I'll take you somewhere rather nice now to end off with. Put my hat back on because it's freezing cold. Well, not freezing cold, but it is pretty chilly today, shall we say. Architecture in this place is pretty amazing as well, so I'll take you over this one first, and then around this way. One of the many courtyards of the old Greenwich Naval Hospital, and we are in one of them. We get to take in some pretty decent views of the chapel there. This does get more spectacular. There's bells up in those. What I'm going to take you is over here. One of these old water pumps. It doesn't pump water anymore, but the handle still goes on it. And this is where the old pensioners and anyone that was in this area or living here would have got their water from. And being so near to the Thames, well, one dreads to think where it came from. Love places like this. This way. I'll take you over to this side now, which is even more spectacular. Over there you have the Queen's house, and the Greenwich Royal Naval Hospital was only given royal consent to go up as long as it didn't interrupt the view of the Queen's house to the Thames. This is the painted hall just there, so that's where we're going. See some of the exterior of that. Not bad, is it? It does get better. As we go down these stairs and into this courtyard, And here is the painted hall. And here we are inside the painted hall. This will be a more concise history for you, a bit shorter than the other videos, with more knowledge involved in this one. This is known as the Science Corner over here, what the tour guides call the Science Corner. Copernicus. And here, at the time that this was painted by James Thornhill, this man here and his assistant was the current Astronomer Royal. And this scroll that he holds is very interesting. The date, I don't know if you'll see it. Yeah, it's April the 22nd, 1715. That's a prediction. He predicted a solar eclipse. And this hall was finished in 1713, and 2 years later, to the day, a few seconds late, which he was disappointed about, because he was a perfectionist, he got it right. So the prediction came true. And the rose in the centre, the symbol of monarchy and democratic monarchy as well. Constitutional monarchy, because don't forget, before the Glorious Revolution, a lot of which is celebrated in this, they weren't so constitutional. So there are some good symbols in here. Of course, the chief protagonists, William of Orange and Queen Mary. They brought about the Glorious Revolution and came in, and William of Orange stands on the head of his arch enemy, Louis, the Sun King of France. Here you have the disvirtues being swept away. Most interestingly as well is this fellow here, John Worley. He was the able seaman John Worley. He was one of the first pensioners to come to Greenwich, and he died at the age of 96. He was one of the oldest pensioners. Now, he's not up on this ceiling as a reward. He is here as a punishment. When you were a resident here, or a pensioner, one of the agreements that you had to stick to is that you had to attend at least one church service every day. John Worley was often fined for not doing so. He was often fined for being drunk and getting into fights about gambling as well. And there's talk that he may have been autistic because he could never sit still. So as a punishment for his bad behaviour, when this place was being painted, he was told that he would have to sit still long enough for the artist James Thornhill to capture his likeness. This old rascal is amongst some of the greats there. So you've got kings, gods and allegorical figures, and able seaman John Worley, who died at the age of 96. I'll take you on to the next bit, which is over here. Famous battles, of course, but we go up here for the next phase of monarchy and propaganda, and something quite interesting in a minute as well. Little trick of the eye. So you've had William and Mary. Here you have Queen Anne and her consort, really what you would call him. Such a sad life for Queen Anne. Of her 18 pregnancies, not a single one lived beyond infancy or young childhood really. They did everything they could to procure an heir and couldn't. So you've got that phase there. Then you've got the next phase. Once Anne was dead, who would take over? That was the Stuart line gone. So let me introduce you to the Hanoverians, to King George I, who didn't really like England that much and did much to spend as little time in it as he could. He is there. Here is his son, the heir, and note they face away from each other, because the thing with the Hanoverians and their heirs is that they absolutely detested each other with a passion. So there's his son, the future King George II, and King George II followed suit in that hatred, and he and his wife detested their son. So yeah, it's a thing that carried on. The crown was first offered to this lady here, Duchess Sophia, who's the mother of King George I, but she died just a few months after that offer, so the offer was extended to her son. And if you note, she has a building on her head. That is because she was a great landowner. Let me introduce you to the artist, James Thornhill. He was paid £3.10 per square yard and of the wall, and £4 something for every square yard of the ceiling. He spent the rest of his life trying to get a better remuneration for what he'd done, but that didn't happen. Here, let me find it. If I can find, yes, just there. Do you see a ghostly hand? That is said to be the ghostly hand of the wife of King George I, who he also detested and had her imprisoned in Hanover, and that is said to be her ghostly hand. That's the ghost story attached to it. More than like, it was a court jester of King George I who fell out of favour and was later painted over. So that's that. And now, Trompe-l'œil. It's brilliant, actually. It's very clever how it works. If I walk you over to this corner here, you see these two pillars here and those two pillars there. Now note how they are both facing us. Bear that in mind. Now this is the trick of the eye. So we're going to point ourselves down at the floor, me included, because this is what you have to do. And you walk over to this corner. And you look up. And note they're both facing us. That's very, very clever. Trompe-l'œil, trick of the eye. And it certainly does that. The next piece of trompe-l'œil. I want you to note the eyes of the artist. I'm going to walk very slowly and keep your eye on those eyes. Now the eyes have followed us all the way around the room. The same thing happens with the future King George II as well if you do that. So if you visit here, come and have a look at that. This place was founded by Queen Mary, who basically saw a lot of sailors coming home from the battles missing arms and things like that, and in a poor condition and not really anywhere to go. So after one very great battle, she sent 50 surgeons, but it still wasn't enough. So with Sir Christopher Wren, and of course the petitioning and advice from Samuel Pepys himself, this place was set up as a hospital for seamen. It would become known as the Greenwich Pensioners. And this hall that we're in, which was plain when it was first built, was always the refectory. It was always designed to be the eating area where they would eat their dinners. But as the work went on with the painting, these able-bodied seamen and those above them, who'd spent many, many years of their lives cramped up in little cabins and on board ships, felt less and less comfortable in this grand and opulent space. So they would eat below in the undercroft. And then it became an art gallery, and then would also become what we see it today. And going further back, there's been, since its inception, so we say, 10 restoration projects on this over the years, and each of the artists or people who've worked on it mainly have left their signatures. Now you see our early astronomer there. You can't see them unless you get up on scaffolding, but around the fluffy bits of his hat are 5 signatures, people who've worked on the restoration over the years. And there also are signatures all over the water, like other signatures of other restorers. And they've not all been discovered yet. So with each restoration, they find more and more, which is very, very interesting. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the painted hall. I hope you've all enjoyed. Thanks for watching. The building of the old naval hospital took 50 years all in all, as we heard, and spanned the lives and careers of these 4 men. Firstly, Sir Christopher Wren, who designed it. Secondly, Nicholas Hawksmoor, who followed just after him, responsible for a good few of the London churches, both men. Then Thomas Ripley, who would be brought in afterwards to finish the job off. And of course, Sir James Thornhill, who painted the painted hall. And definitely, of course, a mention who we must not forget, Mr. Samuel Pepys, Esquire, whose petition was one of the reasons the hospital was brought about, and who was brought in for his advice on the hospital. So he played a fairly pivotal role in its inception and creation, and he wouldn't live to see it finished. It was finally finished 1 year after his death, and the painted hall would begin a good few years after his death. But yeah, it's a nice little legacy point, isn't it? Now, join me back outside for a little bit more of the exterior views, something very special from the King William Courtyard. And our exterior scenes I did film 2 weeks ago. I was going to film them again and on the day that we did the tour, but there was a filming going on in the King William Courtyard on that day, and it's a filming on the lives of Queen Mary and King William, so it'll be interesting to see what that one's about. Anyway, join me outside. The dome above the chapel has a clock in it. This one lets you know what way the wind is blowing. So we've got a southwesterly wind at the moment. And as I turn this round, as I say, it gets more spectacular. There we are. Zoom in. The famous battles. Hope you all enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching. Join me all again soon. And that's the Chapel of St Peter and St Paul and the Painted Hall at the old Greenwich Naval College. That concludes this one for now. Our little journey over this way. Hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Oh, one more thing just before we go. Just over here. Another one of those water pumps. Underneath all the cellars and the guts and the working areas of the old Naval College. I don't think that one's going to pump water either, but we will give it a try. They've probably been disconnected a long time ago. Yeah. Not that we would be drinking anything that it pumped out, of course. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed.